What's up, people? What's up, people? It is us. We back with another episode. We actually at episode 9. Man, time flies, boys. We have a dope show here for y'all today. I've been super geeked about this show for the last 2 weeks. We have some of our amazing sisters of the D9 that's going to be on with us today. So we just going to do a quick check-in of the AOS brothers, and then we're going to really give the floor over to these sisters to talk about, what they're doing in education. So, Ball, Dave, how's y'all week, man?
Good. We started off with a day off just because how it fell in the schedule on Monday. But we're getting back at it school wise. I'm good. Family's good. Celebrated my birthday last week, so just happy to survive another year.
Happy birthday, bro! Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, brother!
Thank you.
I'm good, man. But like the shirt said, man, if God can get us through 2020, He can get us through anything. So I'm feeling good. I didn't wake up this morning with deja vu 4 years ago, where I thought we was gonna have the first female president, and then I wake up and there's balloons falling and Trump is walking. I'm like, well, they don't give balloons to the loser. Why this man got balloons falling? So, all is good, man. But yeah, school's good, family's good. We had election day off, so it was a good little R&R yesterday. And ready to get on this show. I'm gonna be on my best behavior tonight.
And just me, like I said, it's always a good week for me whenever I get to kick it with my brothers. So I don't know if y'all was on social media, but you seen the principal's appreciation my staff threw for me last week. That was super dope. So I'm on cloud 9 still. So that's all I'm gonna say. So we actually gonna turn it over to these ladies and give them a chance to kind of just tell a little bit about themselves, their background, their journey in education. So we're gonna start with the top and work our way down to the finer women last. So Ms. Watson, you on the floor first. So just tell us a little bit about who you are, what your current role is, and kind of a little bit about your journey in education.
Yeah, so first I'd like to thank you all for having me on the show. My name is Sade Watson, and I am currently an assistant principal at KIPP Indy College Prep Middle School on the east side of Indianapolis. I started my teaching career at Tinley Collegiate Academy. I'm actually an alumna of Tinley, and so I got to go back home and serve the young ladies at Tinley Collegiate. I did that for 4 years. So I taught for 4 years. I became an administrator my 5th year at Tinley Collegiate. And then for the past 3 years, I've been at KIPP as an assistant principal. So that's just my educational background in a nutshell.
Can you just give us a little bit of demographics about the school that you're currently at?
Yes. So the school that I am currently at is off of 30th and Orchard. We serve predominantly African-American students in the Martindale-Brightwood area. And so I work at a middle school. So it's 6 through 8, but the building that our middle school is in, we share with our elementary. So the building itself is K through 8, but my specific school is 6 through 8.
All right. Shout out to the middle school. I just told somebody today, either you middle school or you ain't no in between. So,
nope.
Hey, Doc, real quick. Something I got to share, man. Sade's the reason I met Tinley. She was the one that introduced me to our former boss and CEO, who's the one that kind of helped groom us. And so she's the reason I met Tinley, man. If it wouldn't have been for her, man, I might still be in a township school drowning. So
in a way, Watson, you played a big role in AOS even being here today.
Pretty much, man.
You know what I'm saying? So we got to get you some swag.
Yes.
So
shout out to Sade.
Next up, we got another doc on the show. So it's so good to finally have somebody else that got them letters because our producer ain't got his yet. But go ahead, Doc. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Mess.
Hello, I'm Dr. Annette Franklin. I am actually a social worker. Unlike you all, I am not a principal, nor have I taught in a school. I have been a parent family specialist for an alternative ed program, but I teach higher ed. I've been teaching since 1999. You all can do the numbers. And I'm very passionate about my profession. I'm very passionate that I get the opportunity to give back to my students who have sometimes been very challenging. And I had got my PhD in education administration. The reason I did that is because part of what we do is that if we're not competent in an area that we get to be, And so at the time of No Child Left Behind, we were looking at the students that we're getting in the classroom, and we were wondering, how are we going to really work with these students when they're being taught to the test? And so I decided that I wanted to engage with principals who are already principals and those who are superintendents to see what they thought about the whole process. It was very interesting. I had a great mentor who allowed me to travel across the country and even into Australia for our educational cultural tour to look at the school systems and to go to Canada and just really look at that we weren't the only ones having the same type of problems, whether it was learning or social injustices. So that's mostly what I do now, is that I'm deeply into service and fighting for social injustices.
So yeah, we definitely appreciate all the years of service that you put in and led the way. So Mr. Barr, you want to give a little bit background about Dr. Franklin and your connection?
Yeah, so Dr. Franklin is someone that is very special to me. I have known her my entire 41 years. She is my mom's big sister, and really has been a leader in our family and a model for me. One of the reasons why I aspire to have those letters at the front of my name one day as well.
So, okay. And certainly last but not least, we're going to have the final woman come step through for us. So Sister Rock, the floor is yours. Give us a little bit about who you are and your background, please.
Definitely. First, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I am Keisha Rock, originally from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm currently a principal at a K-12 charter school in Charlotte, North Carolina. I started my education career as a counselor, actually, in middle school. Like you say, either you're middle school or you're not. And it definitely takes a lot to be in middle school. I've also been an assistant principal here in North Carolina for 8 years, as well as an instructional vice principal in Maryland for a few years before I took on the position that I'm in right now.
That's what's up. And you represent who now again? Can we just get you to say that for us, please?
The final women of Zeta Phi Beta, Sorority Incorporated.
Blue Phi. So let's just.
This show's about showing love, man. We're not about to compete.
But I love all of you, though.
Hey, we got mad love. I just got to get that out one time.
Right.
But so let's get into our first topic. So basically, the first topic is the three of us came together on a show, in all seriousness, that put on, and really we were talking about the struggles of being a Black male leader. And from the evolution of that, so the genesis of that show, we always at some point wanted to bring on some sisters to talk about, because the struggles that you face are a lot different than us. So I would like each one of y'all, and we're going to start this time with you, Doc, with kind of what are some things that you face, some adversities or some struggles that you have faced as you come along in your educational journey, and how you've overcome those as a Black woman.
Well, one thing I'll have to tell you, that it wasn't until I was getting my master's at the age of when I was in my 30s was the first time I had any experience with having a teacher of color. And so that with that is that I saw some of the adversities they were going through, and then I experienced them myself and had an opportunity to talk about them. It certainly is the perception of students, regardless of if they were white, Latino, or Black, and how they look at Black female professors, and how not only were females, regardless of who they were not highly respected as our male colleagues, but even worse is how they looked at African American female professors, as if we didn't know what we were talking about, or they knew more than what we did. And so that's been really a struggle and a challenge for me, because when you don't get the support from your program director or your dean to help to alleviate some of these problems, that you just kind of like go along with it and just try to coddle the students, make sure the students get what they want, but not having support for the faculty. So for all my female colleagues, regardless of whether we were Black, white, Asian, or whatever, that is truly a struggle in higher ed that many of us face.
Definitely that higher ed piece is definitely needed, to have people that's been there and know that support. And I just know as I went through my doctoral program, not having someone that looked like me, that, you know, understood the struggles I was facing as not just a Black man, but a Black person in general, trying to get research done and run into some of the barriers of working with schools. And my dissertation was actually a state policy analysis and talking to people at state departments and not knowing how to, you know, didn't want to work with you and not having a connection to get somebody to go in, you know, with that power. So we appreciate you being at that level and kind of doing that work for us at that level. So though, so, Ro, you want to go next? Tell us a little bit about the struggles that you faced a little bit.
Sure. And there have been many, but the one that stands out to me the most is, I would call it being pigeonholed. You know, as a Black woman, and, you know, you're seen as a strong woman. They're like, you know, when I was working in schools, even as an assistant principal, they would say, well, you know, you're really good at working with our Black kids. But what they didn't realize is that I was really good at working with all the kids. But when you get pigeonholed into a certain area, or they think that you're good in that area, they want to leave you there rather than allowing you to grow and branch out into other areas of education so that you can continue to expand. And that's one thing I'm a lifelong learner. So if I do something well, give me something that I don't do well so I can learn that as well. So that was definitely a struggle for me coming through the ranks, because they saw me as, well, you know, you can take care of our Black kids. No, I can take care of all the kids, because that's where my education lies. And it was definitely a struggle trying to show them that. And in addition to kind of just being the last person heard sometimes. You know, we know what you're going to say, or if I come across a little bit assertive in what I'm trying to get the point and get across, I then become the angry Black woman rather than being the educated woman trying to get my point across. So those are some of the struggles that I've encountered, to the point where I even had to leave one county to go into another for a kind of a fresh start, because I just felt like as Black women, we weren't appreciated as we should have been in the county that I was in. Luckily, I was able to overcome that, and the people I work with still call me and ask me questions today, which lends to some of my strengths, thank goodness. But it was definitely a struggle at the time.
So you talked a little bit about the struggles that you kind of faced kind of getting here today, but sitting in the seat that you sit now, and I want you to kind of start it, and we're going to segue into Ms. Watson and to kind of carry on that. What are some of the struggles that you deal with sitting in that seat today with your staff that you interact with?
To be honest with you, other Black women. I have a small school. I only have a staff of maybe about 23 teachers. And I like it because I can be very one-on-one. You know, we have coaching sessions. We do, you know, but a lot of the times the biggest challenge I have is other Black women questioning my level of authority in what I do. So a lot of times when I want to implement something or change something, I have to give them the data and the numbers and everything behind it, rather than just taking my word for it. So that's definitely has been a struggle for the most part. Wherein and even in the area that I'm in, people seeing me in the role that I'm in, when they see me, they'll say, well, you know, I'd like to talk to the principal. Well, sir, I am the principal. And they want to like, oh, okay. Or if I open my mouth, they want to say, oh, well, you sound so educated, but I don't know what they expect. They didn't give me this role because I'm cute. They gave me because I actually know what it is that I'm doing. So sometimes people don't value the role or the title behind your name because of the way that you look, or they value it differently once they see you in person after they talk to you on the phone.
Ms. Watson, you want to go ahead and jump in for us?
Yes, when I think about this question, I honestly think, especially in like my first year of being an administrator, it was me feeling like I was being judged because of my age. And so my first year as an administrator, I was 25, 26 years old. And I got that position because there were people who saw something in me and there was like, this is where you need to be. But I always felt like there was a battle between like parents trusting me because of my age, and especially because like I was an alumna of the school. And so some of those parents who had like kids when I was in school, or like nephews or nieces who knew my face, I was always still like that kid to them. And so sometimes I felt like my expertise was not taken seriously because of my age. And I had to like fight that. I feel like my whole first year with parents. And it's just like, I really do know what I'm talking about. Like I went to school for this. Like I love these kids. Like this is my lane. And like, if you could just trust me in this lane, we can get so much more done. But I just think because I was someone who was younger, and became an administrator when people don't necessarily think a 25 or 26-year-old should be an administrator. That's something that I had to fight against a lot.
Man, that was some power. I think I can definitely obviously relate to the age one, but that one about the Black women, you don't hear that too often, and that's heavy, right? Not knowing that being a Black male, right? We get that from Black men, right? Dudes hating on dudes, and I didn't expect to hear that, from Black women. So definitely was an eye opener to hear that. So my question is, if you're in pre-K through 12, and Doc, you can talk about it too. Like, what is the current model of your school? Is it in person? Is it hybrid? Is it virtual? And if you are like virtual right now, what is the plan to bring kids back? If there is a plan anytime soon to bring kids back. And so we'll start with the order that we did the opening. So Shadi, I go with you first. Like, what's the current model? Kind of describe it and what it's been like this school year.
So our current model is hybrid. We started off the school year fully virtual, and this is week 4, I want to say, that we're in our hybrid model. And so we have A through N, I want to say, come Monday, Tuesday. Everybody's virtual Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday, the end of the alphabet, come. And I definitely do think that it's beneficial, because we did see struggles with students completing work when it was all virtual, and not necessarily because they weren't motivated to, but a lot of our students were, honestly, they were the parents when their parents were at work to their younger siblings. They were helping take care of their grandparents, or, supporting their family in different ways while they were home full time. And so their full attention couldn't be on school. And so now that we do have some of these students in the building with us on the days that they're in there, we have seen a progress in like mastery of skills. Of course, it's not where we want it to be, because we don't have all of our babies in our building 100% of the time. But I definitely do think for us personally that it's going as best as it can. And we're definitely seeing more improvement than we did when all of our students were virtual.
And just to follow up, both and all three of you can touch on it. How's attendance been? Like, how's your model impacted attendance in your school compared to last year, or just in general?
So I think when we were full virtual, it was easier because we weren't live teaching on like Zoom. Our teachers were recording videos and then having like Zoom office hours to support students. And so that freed up their time a little bit to like make those phone calls if they see students aren't working, and like kind of do that like hounding to make, because we know we had to do it because they're not with us. But now that we are in virtual learning, I think that we're getting our groove back and our strive back with getting attendance back up. So I want to say like not last week, we had like hit over 90% every single day. But we are like continuing to work on making sure that our students understand that even if you went to school with us on Monday and Tuesday, you still have work to do Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So that doesn't mean that you've done all your work Monday and Tuesday. So I think like that's the struggle that we're working against now, is like kids think that once I do my work in the building, I'm done. And it's like, no, you got to continue to work when you're online, friends. Got you.
Doc, same question for you. Current model, virtual, hybrid, in person, and then just have you seen student attendance and things like that?
Okay, so we are hybrid, remote, and some online. I do hybrid and remote only because I have to say of my age, and because I do have asthma, and I did have a student that did test positive, so we had to go into quarantine for 10 days. And attendance is not well. Students are not doing very well at all, having to attend either a remote class or even a hybrid class. And so I don't know how they're going to address these issues. I haven't really heard anybody talk about how they're going to address the issues. But unfortunately, we're going to be back to this model when we go back in February. We did not have any breaks this semester. We're not having any breaks next semester. So when we go back in February, we're going to go straight through until May. My concern is losing some students, especially those students who really do need face-to-face and need to have the opportunity to see a professor, because many of our professors are not on campus. I myself, who always have had an open door policy for office hours, now have appointments only as scheduled as students need them. So I've even seen break in attendance of even students coming in asking for help. So this is a really concern for me, especially for my program, because it is a social work program and our students should be still able to contact us when they need, and not by making an appointment or having Zoom appointments and so forth. So it's a real concern for me that this is happening and that the attendance is low, and started off strong. But as you know, with some of your own students, is that they have issues at home and other emotional types of issues that need to be addressed. And if they're not in front of us, we're not able to see some of the things that are happening to them emotionally. And some of them have lost family members. And just yesterday, I had a student who lost a very good friend who was another student who took his life. And so those kinds of issues is what we're dealing with, is that how do we help our students to be successful as they possibly can if we're not there on campus?
So, Doc, let me ask you, so it's a social work program.
Mm-hmm.
Are you also trying to teach your students that, you know, when they graduate, right, social work can maybe a virtual thing as well. So you're having to also teach them now how to do social work virtually while
Yeah. Because that's a big thing, is it, because this is going to change the way we all work.
Absolutely.
In education. And that I've told them, even in their practice, that, you know, tell them medical communication is going on, and it had started before this, but now it really is put in place. So it's going to change the way we practice and the way they practice. And I tell them that one of the things is I gave them a lecture on Monday, is that you're talking about, well, you can't get your assignments in, or this is going on. I said, this is true social work. You're going to have to adapt to this. And if you think that you can't, you might think about another major or another career, because this is it.
No, that's true. That's amazing. So, Miss Rock, so same question. Like, what's the motto? Talk about attendance, and just talk about any struggles if something outside of attendance has impeded, you know, your motto and how your school year is gone.
Okay. Well, as of right now, we are still completely virtual. Being a charter school, the buck stops with me. So I decide whenever they come back, and I'm really not looking at it until January. I'm actually going to use the major school system as a kind of a guinea pig. They are bringing kids back in fully. They brought in elementary full on with no social distancing as of this week. I want to see how they do it and what they do well and what they don't do well before I put my kids at risk and my teachers. So I'm thinking, actually in January, when we do come back, we're possibly going to do the hybrid model where high schoolers come in 2 days a week, middle schoolers come in 2 days a week, because I have a 6 through 12. So I've got to figure out how to gauge that. But we're working on our reentry plan now if it does come into existence. Yes, attendance is an issue. I've had to actually implement attendance contracts, meet with kids. I do home visits. Yes, I do home visits. I will come knock on the door and let the parents know that I'm coming, because a lot of the times I deal with the parents who still have the same expectation that you're the educator, so it's your job to educate my kid. I can't get them online. And I think that's a lot what I run into at the school. The parents are expecting us to fix their child remotely, rather than, you know, they're acting like they're still in the building and we're still responsible. We can put our thumb on them like we want to, but they don't. We struggle with them being at home. Get your child out the bed, make sure that they get online. I've had to do parent meetings where I'm teaching them how to support their kids. Get your child up, take away their phone. Don't let them pick up the phone until they've done their work. So in addition to the attendance, that is definitely probably one of the biggest things, trying to teach these parents how to help us deal with their child holistically. It just can't be us, because we're not in front of their kids. We need you guys to step up, get your kids out of bed, get them ready for school, and don't expect the educators to be able to do it, because my teachers need to teach.
Yeah. So, and real to follow up with that, you said the buck stops with you. So, what's the conversation been like with people maybe in your ear saying, you know, we want our kids back in school, and then trying to balance the teacher. So, with that decision, how have you managed the stakeholders and what they want and what their needs and things like that?
Well, believe it or not, most of the parents are on board. And I know that we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, parent supports and things that we put in place, but I've definitely put, you know, I've got a parent group that we meet once a month where we're getting together and sharing ideas and things out there. I have parents who are volunteering to let other parents drop their kids off at their house because we give out laptops to all the students so they have a way to work. So it's a good support system right now. But whenever I put it out there that the numbers in our state are skyrocketing like nobody's business, the schools who are hybrid or, you know, fully in class, every time somebody tests positive, they've got to go home for 7 days. And that type of transition for students is not good. That transition, you know, I have reason to support why I'm doing what I'm doing. And when they hear it, they may not agree, but they understand.
Awesome. Ball, so you, brother.
Yeah. So, I mean, Ms. Watson, you hit on our next topic, really. You know, we're looking at, you know, what you're doing to support. We are in unprecedented times. And, you know, I don't know how many times you hear that phrase, but we've never been in a situation where we have to have 3 or 2 different models of how we educate our students in the same building. And so, you know, you hit on it a little bit about, you know, the supports that you put in place, but I would love to hear from Sade, Dr. Franklin, about how are you really explicitly focusing on supporting your students, whether it's technology. I think Ms. Toya put a question in the comments on Facebook about, you know, the digital divide. And I'm sure that is probably a piece of the attendance issues that you're seeing, because I know that I'm seeing it at my school. So do y'all mind talking a little bit about those supports that you're trying to provide for your students and families?
Yeah, so we sent each student home with a Chromebook. So each one of our students is 1-to-1 right now. And then when we think about like supporting our staff, so at the beginning we were like, okay, there are a lot of different options that we can do right now. What's an option that's going to be streamlined for not only students, but teachers, regardless of what happens? And so we kind of came up with what we call like a single play playbook. And it's basically how our teachers are teaching the students. And so they're creating instructional videos and then they're being there for support. And so it's like, if you're at home, you can get the instructional video. If you're at school, you can get the instructional video. So there's equity in what students are learning. Of course, if you're at school, there's going to be a little bit of differentiation because teachers are going to want to like embed live and embed like hooks for lessons and everything else like that. But making sure that like we did not change the planning expectations for staff, I think eased their minds about everything, because it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to expect you to plan a live lesson and a virtual lesson and do this. It's like one lesson for everyone. And then if you want to differentiate how you implement that lesson for in-person students, that's fine. So I think that our staff felt supported in that. And then I also, like, we have an amazing social worker at our school. Shout out Sarah Ash. So she has done a lot of help with meeting families where they are, making sure that our families have support, making sure they have food, making sure, like right now we're in the thick of Christmas support. So like which one of our families, like, do we know is going to need that? And let's start working on that early. And then we also have like an amazing partnership with the Edna Martin Christian Center. And they have gone like above and beyond to support our families, to support our students. We've done, like, before the election, we did voter drives. It was just a lot of things that we did to not only make like staff feel comfortable, but also to like connect with the community and to make sure that like we were serving the whole student and thinking about that as well. And I think one thing for teachers that I had to notice is like we had to address that this is different, because I saw a lot of teachers who they were just stressed out because they're like, I feel bad because I'm not giving the students everything that I feel like I need to give them, and I don't know how to change it. And then you just kind of have to call a spade, explain the time that we're in, and then just like think through, okay, so what are some things that you feel like we can do in order to help relieve some of the stress you're having, but to also let teachers know that like we can only do so much in the time that we're in right now. And with everything that we have. So don't beat up on yourself about that. And you kind of have to like lead through love and lead through like family feel. That's my thing. If I work at a place that does not feel like this is my family, I don't want to be there. And so I do feel like we've like leaned on our team and family, because that's a big KIPP thing, team and family, just to make sure that everyone is comfortable, everyone is learning, and we're doing what's in the best interest of our students.
Definitely appreciate that feeling of family, because we're not going to get through this on our own. And so creating that environment where everyone feels like they have a role, they have a part, and that, just like you said, us as educators, we have a high level of expectations for ourselves, and that's difficult to overcome when you can't control all the variables like you're used to in the classroom when we do school as normal. Thank you for that. Dr. Franklin, how about you? As a social worker, how are you supporting your students?
Well, as I tell my students all the time, there's nothing that we could do by ourselves. We always have to work together. And so I'm glad to see that you are a good example of bringing your team together. Well, what's unique about this time for our community, which is the college community, which is our students, is that because of the pandemic, many of my placements, especially the hospitals and nursing homes, were not able to have students at their agencies. So I was lucky enough to place students in Res Life, in the Diversity and Inclusion Office, and also at the Counseling Center. So it's really given the students a really good sense that here I'm helping other students through all of this in class, because they had their mindset on, oh, I'm going to do clinical work and I'm going to do face-to-face. And here, when you talk about making changes, is they're actually trying to improve the success of their classmates, the rest of the student population on campus. So that is really one of the things that I'm very proud of, to see them work and think of ways, workshops and educational opportunities to help their fellow peers through this this time. And in the organization part of it, they're in Res Life, they've been given book lists to read about being anti-racist, and they had to choose a book by a person of color to read and report back to the Res Life director. Well, how are you going to use this to help develop some of the programs and projects and workshops that you want to do? So I'm really happy to say that being able to support my students in this way and to encourage them in their prospective practicums, especially on campus, has really given me the opportunity to say, this is how we serve. This is what we do. We have our code of ethics says we not only have a responsibility to our clients, but we also have a responsibility to our colleagues, to our profession, and the society as a whole. And you all are learning exactly how to do that right now.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Doc, you're up. You got the next question?
Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, we did a show around mentorship. And it really, drove home. We did a Twitter chat about it. There was a blog post that I did about it. So, we want you to talk about just the mentors and that have been a part of your journey that's got you to where you got this is your chance to kind of give those people their roses while they're still here, if they're still here with us. So we'll start with you, Soro.
Okay. So when I went to school, I didn't even go to school to be an educator. I was going to be a lawyer. Who knew? But when I was at North Carolina Central University at HBCU, I ran into a beautiful woman by the name of Dr. Rowland, Dr. Terry Rowland. And one day she just came to me after I had graduated, and she said, you know what? You have a great heart and people relate to you. You'd be good in counseling. And I was like, really? I never thought about that. But that's how I ended up getting my first master's in counseling. And as I went through just watching other Black females do the things that they do and admiring what they do, I would kind of just glean from them. You know, how did you do this? I'm a constant learner. How did you do that? So between Pastor Brenda Harrell and Dr. Rowland, they really kind of just fed into my life and led me to believe that I could be a leader for other people and a leader of change. And be honest with you, just looking back at how they poured into my life, that's what makes me want to pour into everybody else's life and do for them what they did for me. So I just love uplifting other Black women. I think that if we work together, we could be, oh, that Black girl magic is just amazing, as long as we continue to support each other.
Shout out to Black Girl Magic. Ms. Watson, who are some of the people that have helped you kind of along the way in your journey?
I feel like I have a lot.
Take your time. The floor is yours.
I have to shout out my dad, Marcus Robinson. He was one of the founders and CEOs of Tinley. And being, you know, a high schooler, watching him lead, because he started off as like principal, I was just astounded by like the relationships that he built. Like, I remember sleeping under the front office desk because he was, you know, at work so late with students and parents and just supporting. And so I was like, you know, if I could be half the educator that he is, I'll be in a great place. So like, definitely him. I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but I was a special education teacher before I became an administrator. And so, similar to, I was going to be a lawyer. I'm a sociology major. I was going to be a lawyer. I was not going to be a teacher, but life happens. And now here I am. But so in the special education realm, I would definitely say like Nikia Douglas and Penny Gregory. I've learned everything I knew about SPED from them, just watching them feeding into me and me like trying to mimic everything they were doing. When it comes to being like a strong Black leader, I would say Kelly Marshall. She is no nonsense, unapologetically who she is. And she was like one of the first examples of a Black leader that I felt like didn't have to tone down herself in order to truly be her and lead like a school with high expectations. So I learned a lot from her. And then finally, my principal now, Casey McLeod, is bomb. She like pours into me. She sees in me what I don't see in myself. She is an amazing leader, not just from like relationships with staff, but like content knowledge and just showing how to like coach teachers. I learned everything I know about coaching from Kip in Relay. And so just those are kind of the people that come to the top of mind, where it's like, these are people that I gleaned from. These are people that I tried to mimic. And these are people who, you know, are the reason that I am in the position that I'm in right now.
Okay. Doc, you know.
Okay. Well, I have also had many mentors, but probably my most favorite is, I'll call him Uncle P. He was also a Mega Sci-Fi and a wonderful, great teacher. At his years, all of his 89 years, he was a true example of an educator. Still was very active in his fraternity until his health failed right before we lost him. But he was just instrumental in me being the person I am when it comes to being an educator. Also, that my undergraduate social work professors, they mentored me. They told me what path I would take. They told me, you know, you go further because there will be a place for women of color in higher ed. But mostly my PhD professor, my dissertation advisor, actually, and my counselor when I was getting my PhD. Although she was a white female, she was her major was multicultural education. She had taught in New York City, but she also provided me to have the opportunity to sit with some of the most influential Black educators in research. So to sit at a table with these individuals, of course, I was in awe, but and I still can't get over the fact that I could actually converse with these individuals. And I would ask them all the time, who reads our research besides us? Are teachers really getting our research? Our administrators getting our research? Is the educational system, are they really reading our research and are they using this? And so that was always my question is, who's reading this research? And then mostly, I would say the 5 women who I did their oral history for my dissertation. These Black women were just phenomenal. And I was trying to get everything I could from them, and they were just pushing me, just saying, don't you stop. Don't you stop. Everybody else that starts out on this path for a PhD, they stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. So those women also really encouraged me. So I just can't pinpoint one, but I've had some really great mentors throughout my life.
That's awesome.
And that's why I want to give back.
That's awesome. And we do have one more topic. Before we get to that, I kind of want to slide in another topic before we get to our final topic, because this show is based on, the fact that the 3 of us are brothers of, Alpha, Omega, and Sigma. So I do want to give you all a little bit of time to talk about, what does your organization mean to you, as a woman of, Alpha Kappa Alpha, or a devastating diva, or a woman of finer woman. So we want to give you all a little bit of time to just talk about what your organization means to you and what your organization has done for you in your journey as well, just in life, not just in education. So we're going to start from the top. So we're going to give you the floor, Ms. Watson, first.
So I absolutely positively love my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And when I think about what the sorority has done for me, it has definitely helped polish me into a professional. I remember I was a little rough around the edges in undergrad. I'm still kind of a straight shooter, but anything would literally, if it came in my mind, it came out my mouth. And there were definitely graduate advisors that had to pull me aside and be like, it's okay to have that opinion, but it doesn't always need to come out your mouth. And so that's something that I learned through the sorority in undergrad. It was just yes, I can have very strong opinions about things, but sometimes there's a time and a place to state them. And sometimes there's a way to state them that doesn't come across as just me being abrasive. I think another thing is just the connection and the sisterhood piece is so strong for me. I can call, I can look through my directory, find an administrator, call them right now, and I'm sure I can get whatever I needed if I had any questions, if I had needed any help. When I was at Tinley, my sorority sisters would always show out for my kids. If it was an MLK Day program, if it was donating snacks to kids, if it was whatever, it was just okay, I know what you're doing, and I know the reason why you serve students, so I'm always going to be there. I'm always going to have your back. And I have 2 sisters, one younger, one older. And so and my older sister is 16 years older than me. So me being born, we didn't really have that connection until I became an adult. And so just having that sisterhood has helped me tremendously. And then just serving the community. I think when you're in undergrad, I went to DePaul University. So if you know anything about DePaul University in Greencastle, Indiana, if you know anything about Greencastle, Indiana, that's all I need to say. Very small town. But that being in my sorority helped me and pushed me to be comfortable serving, no matter the demographic, no matter if I felt these people supported me or not. It was just is this what's needed? You go out into the community and you do it, because I definitely did not necessarily always feel supported as a Black person in general in Greencastle, Indiana. But my sorority always pushed me to be better, to serve the community. And it doesn't matter what they look like. They don't necessarily have to look like you in order for you to serve them. And so we do say service to all mankind. And I definitely do take that to heart, because I can't be me if I'm not serving everyone, if I'm being shiesty about who I want to serve or what I want to do. It's just, that's not what God put us on this earth for. And so Alpha Kappa Alpha has helped me with that a lot. And I definitely love all my sorors and appreciate being able to be 10 years in the game. So, yeah.
All right. Doc, can you talk about, life as a devastating diva? And while you're doing it, also, somebody in the comments asked, could you give your dissertation topic that you did?
Okay, first, my dissertation topic was going from professional aide to teacher. It was an oral history on 5 African-American women who participated in the CORE program. That was Career Opportunities Program of Erie. The acronym would say COP, but it was actually at the time when Johnson was the president, and he was known as the education president. He put in this program, and these women were in their 30s and 40s when they went back to school and to become educators. They were paraprofessionals and became teachers. So I am proud to be a member of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. My family are Deltas and Qs. One, I talked about my uncle. One of our oldest relatives is a Delta, and she's in her 80s. Part of me being a social worker and so the public service certainly is part of who I am. It's one of our core values as a social worker, and then certainly the public service that Deltas do, that I'm very much proud of being active in a sorority that really looks after our community. As Black feminists, and our year was stolen from us for the suffrage movement, but I am proud to say that we all, regardless of what sorority we belong to, that we were very much a part of the suffrage movement for women getting the right to vote. Sometimes we're shortchanged on that, and people do not realize that we were very much a part of that. And so my next research is really going to look at how we, as sisters of the sororities, did play an important part in the suffrage movement, especially during this time when it was very important for us to get out the vote. And I think people should know our role.
All right. So there's a reason why sometimes they don't let me run lead. So Sister Rock, we're going to introduce you and bring you to talk about the sisters this way. I said, my sorrow, you looking good today. So talk to us about being a finer woman for us real quick.
They got chants, songs,
scrolls and everything. I am actually extremely proud to be a woman of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Just the support from moving from, I've moved probably been in the past 3 states in the past 5 or 6 years, and everywhere I go, there's that connection. You see some blue and white somewhere, and it's like, hey, Sora, what's going on? And it's automatic. What do you need? Where'd you come from? What kind of support do you need? Even when I moved here to Charlotte not too long ago, just reconnecting surprisingly with some people that I knew from undergrad. It's almost like we just stepped right back into the role that we were in. And I'm a servant. I'm usually a church servant. But anywhere I go, even if I don't necessarily find a home church, I know that there's a chapter out there doing some kind of work that I can give back, because that's where I get my warm and fuzzies from, so to speak, the service. And be honest with you, that's all of us, because a lot of the events that we do it with all the sororities. It's not just Zeta. The whole finer womanhood thing has really helped me, though. I was somewhat like Miss Watson, where it was what it was, and I said what I said, that kind of thing. But I realized, over time and age, in the 20 years I've been a Zeta, that, I've got to carry myself with a certain level of refinement and, hold myself to a certain standard, especially if I'm going to be a role model for somebody else coming through the ranks. So it really helped me to refine the things I say, think about the things before I said them. And don't get me wrong, I'm still going to say it. I just going to put a little polish on it, a little finer woman on, make it all nice and shiny and pretty for him. But it has definitely helped to be a part of a sisterhood where I can go if I need support in the school where I'm working. I can reach out to my sorors and like, look, I'm trying to do this. Who around here can help? And look at the kind of volunteer, the kind of people that just want to step up, the people who want to give me ideas, because they know I'm always open to ideas. It's not always just about what I want, because I may not think about everything. But the level of support that you get from a sisterhood is just absolutely amazing, and it really can't compare to much else.
And just kind of just put a bow on this whole piece that we just did, this topic, that because for me, the D9 represents one component of Black excellence. And I know there's 6 of us on here. So there's 3 other organizations that we do want to run this back and make sure we give them a chance to get on there. One of them, it might be hard to find somebody, but definitely the SG Rose and the Kappas, we want to make sure that we show y'all some love.
Messy.
Dave, the floor is yours, bruh.
All right, messy. So look, this is gonna be like a whole group discussion. We've got about 10 minutes left, but real quick, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget AOS Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube page. Hit us up on Apple Podcasts. Numbers are going up. But as you know, we're in the middle or the end of an election, and as reported by the 8 Black Hands political arm, Joe Biden secured Michigan and is at 264, which puts him 6 away from the presidency. So we're waiting on Nevada to kind of seal it up. And I probably should address the elephant in the room. Yes, Trump did win Indiana first. But I got a question. Where are all the black people that voted for Obama in 08? Because don't forget, Obama won Indiana in 08. But then all those black people disappeared. And that was huge because before that, it had been like 1964 or something when a last Democrat won. So to my Indiana folks that listening or will listen, what are black people that voted for Obama? Because we need you back because we didn't gun Romney and Trump twice, and we got to do better. But anyway, with the election, looks like it's going to be Biden. What do you see both nationally and locally where you are, the impact on this election on education? And anybody can start because we're going to make this an open discussion.
Okay, well, I'll start first because I am very happy that it is looking like Biden is going to win, because if for college cost, there's a really need to look at tuition for students to make it affordable. Where I teach at the state of New York, they do have a program for for low income families where they get tuition for 4 years. It's called Excelsior Scholarship, and of course they meet the criteria. But the biggest thing is loans, and that the fact that the House is now blue, which is a good thing, because there was where student loans were looked to be privatized. When you look at loan forgiveness, some of these things that were really hanging in the balance of being lost for our students. It's hard enough now for students to afford college and walk away with these loans, but it's just that there was a threat of all of Obama's work being taken away when it comes to loans and tuition and programs to help students to be successful. So I'm looking forward to it this week to hurry up and be over so that we can really look at how we can make our schools better, because education for the last 30 years has been a commodity. I wanted to get back to education. This whole role of why we don't have retention is because of it become a commodity, and it's all about putting students in seats and not always supporting these students to be successful.
So I'm gonna jump in because I'm just gonna name my couple of things, and I'm not gonna elaborate. The first thing I'm happy about that Biden's gonna win is we can get Betsy ass up out that office. That's my first thing. The second thing, he talked about tripling Title I funding. So make sure that we're getting more money into Title I schools. So that's the second thing I really want to look at as well. But the thing that I'm most worried about with Biden going into office, Biden has not shown that he's an advocate for school choice. So I think that we're going to take some step backs in that area. So there are some pros and cons, but I think with Betsy getting her ass out of office, that's the biggest win of the night. I'm out.
Thanks.
I'll go next. I agree with both of you, especially in regards to when you're talking about people taking out loans and especially as educators and different laws regarding loan forgiveness. You pay a lot of money and to get your education. And actually, North Carolina is the third lowest paying state for educators across the country. So they're not even making enough to pay back these loans. And I would really like for the government to kind of revisit that and some of the loan forgiveness programs. Being in a charter school locally, I'm excited about some of the people who won, because that means that we're going to maintain our funding, because we're talking about cutting funding for our charter schools, especially for our special education populations, which is, yes, that's not where we need to be cutting funds. And I'm interested to see on my end in this particular state how we're going to do some. We talked about it a little bit early, some of the attendance acts. So a couple years ago, they took away the compulsory attendance act, where you can't make kids come to school. Where in the past, you miss a certain amount of days, we can take certain actions, we can hold parents accountable, and we all know that academic directly correlates with attendance with the majority of the time. So I'll be very interested to just kind of see how they're going to take a different look or a step back and re-implement some of those things that were taken away that allow us to really kind of put interventions in place to make our kids successful.
I definitely agree with getting Betsy out of the office. I think we have this conversation about like defunding the police and what that means. But I'm like, you guys have been defunding education for how long? And like, nobody is speaking on that. And so I hope in that we start actually looking into like, what do schools need and what does that funding look like for these schools to actually be able to serve students in the best way? Because right now I do think it's like everybody's fighting for a head count. Everybody's fighting for a head count. And it's not necessarily like we're doing what's best for kids. It's like, where is this? Like, I need this head count to pay for this teacher. I need this head count to pay for this specials, or I need this head count to pay for something, instead of thinking about, okay, like, what do our kids need? And how can we boost the funding? So funding is like first getting Betsy DeVoe's ass out. And then funding is something that I'm looking into in the more like near term. I'm looking into like what another CARES Act, or whatever they want to call it, HEROES Act, looks like for education, because a lot of our schools, especially schools that serve demographic of students that we all work in, depend on that money right now. And so it's like, if we don't get any more, what is that going to look like for staffing for next year? What is that going to look like for services for students next year? And so that's something that I am very anxious about. Especially like looking into planning for next year. But I just hope that A, Biden comes through with the come through, and B, when he does, that like we truly look at education for what it is, and we truly like value our educators, because there would be no other job if it wasn't for somebody teaching you how to do it. And doctors get paid all this money, lawyers get paid all this money, but the teachers that taught them the skills that they needed in order to do that, are not, they're getting marginally like lowered pay. And so I hope that not only in funding schools, but looking at ways like how can we increase teacher pay, because our teachers are frontline workers day in and day out, and they should be compensated for such.
I'll finish it up, and I'll keep mine brief. But I think the most important thing to come out of this election, and I hope the results turn out with Biden winning. But had a conversation with a teacher yesterday, and she brought up one of her students mentioned that that she was afraid. And I think that's the bottom line, is taking care of our students and their social emotional needs. And when they can turn on the TV and they can hear their president devalue them and make them afraid, because in California, we've got a lot of families that are immigrants and that are undocumented and those types of things. And when they feel that coming to school, they're not safe, being in their community, they are not safe, how are they going to learn? And I think that having a new president in office is going to change that tone, change that climate. And you all talked about the policies, but I just feel like that the way that you communicate, the way that you comport yourself as the leader of the free world, if you will, is so important. And our young people need that positive example.
Absolutely. All right, so we're at the hour mark. So we always do the show. We close it with final thoughts. We'll do a loop around. Doc, I'm gonna have you end it since you started. It was your show, so you're gonna end it. So I'll go ahead.
You want to do that? You sure you want to do that?
Well, listen, Unc on the mute. Unc can just cut us off if it get too out of control. So Unc, if it goes too far, just hit end broadcast. But my final thoughts. First, I appreciate you ladies, you women coming on, sharing your knowledge, being on with us, and talking about your organization, talking about your leadership path and things like that. We just really appreciate it. This is a show that we've always wanted to do. Doc, for putting this together. Appreciate you. Ball, happy birthday again, brother. But man, my final thoughts for you, man. I want to make sure you get your flowers on this one, dog, man. I appreciate you putting us together, man, and having the vision. I appreciate all that you do on Twitter, man, and everything you do with the hands, man. It's inspiring for me as I hope one day to sit in the same seat that you sit in, brother. So I want to make sure, man, you get your flowers, man. I definitely appreciate you. And I had to clap back on somebody who tried to reply on me today, so they got that smoke. And if you don't follow Unc on Twitter, you should follow him, because we had a conversation this weekend about people trying to be funny when they reply all, and then switch it to reply when you get handled with. So I just appreciate you, brother, man. And Doc, man, great show. Ba, happy birthday. Ladies, appreciate you. Ba, I'll go to you next, man. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm just very appreciative of our guests, fellas. I really enjoy learning about you, but it has been a breath of fresh air to have these wonderful women join us tonight and just share a little bit about their story and their experience and their leaders in education. So I just want to shout you all out. Thank you so much, for giving us a little bit of inspiration, and a lot of inspiration. And just my final thoughts is I'm just thankful to be here and thankful to be doing this work and supporting our kids and our communities.
Watson, what's your final thoughts? Give us some pearls to close us out.
My final thought on this is, I'm just excited that we all got to come together and have this conversation, because I don't think that we necessarily get that opportunity. And then I will leave with just saying, and just in the work that we do, make sure that you love your babies as much as you love yourself, and you fight for them as much as you would fight for yourself, because we are their voice right now when they don't have a voice or they don't necessarily know how to use their voice. So not only do we need to teach them how to do that, but we need to do that for them as well.
Doc, final thoughts for you, Dr. Franklin.
Okay, so I would like to certainly thank you all and commend you all for the work that you do for your students, your community, and your families. But I want to talk about voice too. I want you all to think about not only the voice of your students, but for your community and for education as a whole, and become advocates, not only locally, but state level and also federal, because that's where our voices need to be heard.
Love it. And please get your hand ready, because I feel like we're about to get a whole routine with this closing. So just be.
Don't be like, we're going to keep it simple.
I know you will. I'm talking about the other one after you, is what I'm worried about.
No, I do want to thank you guys for kind of bringing everybody together. It's really nice to have real great intellectual conversation with people who, see things different perspective, but same perspective, and just to kind of hear how people think differently about different things, but it's all solid information. And the one thing I will leave you with is, I am all about advocating for our students, our babies. But one thing I've learned in this leadership role, that it's just the students aren't just my babies at this point. So my teachers are now my students as well. So continue to pour into your teachers and teach them what the expectation, and lead by example, because they will follow.
And I'm gonna actually keep it real classy as we close out the show. Couple things though. I do want to follow up on Dave. Like I said, Unc has been an amazing mentor. I'm glad to have been able to sit in his presence and just have him look out for me in several different ways. So thank you, Unc, for all that you've done. It goes without saying, we thank you, ladies, for coming on and really inspiring us and giving us those words of wisdom that each one of you have shared with us tonight. I truly, truly appreciate it. And the last thing I just want to say about this whole election thing, because this is far from over. There still has to be a transfer of power. So please, your voice is still needed at this time. And one of the quotes that I always, that I guess is my quote now, because it's on the back of shirts and things like that, is that your most powerful tool you always have is your voice, and never let nobody take your tool from you. So with that, you have been listening to episode 9 of the AOS podcast. Go get your popcorn ready, because in about an hour, Libations with Us is going in. So make sure you get your popcorn ready. Tune in. Thank you. Make sure you share the show. Go like it. Apple Podcasts, hit us up. We will see y'all in 2 weeks. We out. Go, Mob.
Who you with?